Do you want divine or divine?
Somewhere in between, I think is what she's doing. I wouldn't worry about it. It's fine. Thank you. Thank you, though. All right. We can run it more if you want to.
No, you know what I need to do is I just need to like clear out my sinuses. You hear it?
All right, you guys are wonderful. Let's take a little break. Let's help get these candles lit if we can. And we'll be ready for action. All right.
That's intense. Good for you.
Oh, sure.
Great. Okay.
Does anybody want my flamethrower?
I need
Sure. Why not?
Come on up here, ushers and greeters, and Matt and anybody else here.
Oh, that is.
Lena.
All the people who have a little right here. This side. Go up and down. Much better, yes.
Okay, so let's get where's Matt? Matt
Oh, I'll save some for you.
Bill and Nate's
There's plenty.
here.
There's plenty. I've never used one of these before. It's a little scary.
Yeah, it'll light your eyebrows on fire.
This is more like for cooking. Hey, Brian?
It's what we light our stove with.
Yeah.
You can turn it down. There's a down function.
Okay.
I was just,
Good for lighting cigars.
I just had it cranked.
I'll just let you
You should. I've got a flamethrower like that for cigars.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, did I fill it too full?
So
I'm almost hot, so that's it.
where is
Ellie, sorry.
Only fill it first.
Holy and beautiful is the custom by which we gather here this evening on Christmas Eve. Here we have come to give our thanks, to face our ideals, to remember our loved ones. Here we gather to deepen our faith, to renew our hope, and to express our joy for the gift of Christmas. Through this hour breathes the worship of all the ages, the cathedral music of all history. Blessed are the ears that hear that eternal sound. Good evening, and welcome to Kitsap Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. I'm Reverend Victoria Poling. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm wearing my festive red stole today to symbolize the love and the tenderness that arises in many people's hearts on Christmas Eve. If you're visiting this evening in person or online, please participate as you feel comfortable. We're glad you're here. I invite you to follow along in your physical order of service, and for those of you attending virtually, the link to the order of service should appear in the chat. If you're here in the sanctuary this evening, please take a moment at this time to silence your electronic devices. And I now invite our reader to come forward and offer our land acknowledgement.
Thank you. I'm Mac Johnson. I use he, his pronouns. Tonight I'm wearing a black shirt and a vest with a red Santa hat. I'm very happy to gather with you all this Christmas Eve. We acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the Aboriginal territory of the Suquamish people. Expert fishermen, canoe builders, and basket weavers, the Suquamish live in harmony with the lands and waterways along Washington's central Salish Sea as they have for thousands of years. Here, the Suquamish live and protect the land and waters of their ancestors for future generations as promised by the Point Elliott Treaty of 1855. And now, please rise in body or spirit and sing, "O Come All Ye Faithful," as our musical call to worship. Woo-hoo. Number 253 in our great hymnals and on screen.
Joyful and triumphant, O come ye
chalice lighter this evening is Rosemary Dougal. Please join us in these words on screen and in your order of service. We light our chalice this Christmas Eve for the renewal of faith, the wonder of hope, the beauty of love, and the gift of joy. Let us open our hearts to all with whom we share this day on this earth. Let us now hold one another in a moment of precious silence.
For each of the last Sundays, we've lit candles on the Advent wreath. Each light was a step into winter towards the turning of the year. We're leaning in expectation into all that is being born in us at this holy time of year, when the unknown lies before us, rich with possibility. Tonight, we light the Advent candles for the last time this year. Rosemary will light them one at a time. And we light the first candle of hope for that which is best in us, for that which is best in us to rise and enliven our souls and our relationships. The second candle we light for peace, for the courage to soften what is rigid in our hearts, and to find the soft spot and stay with it. We light the third candle in the name of joy. Joy in the shape of gratitude for all that is our life, and joy and expectation of the world that we are building and creating with one another. And the last candle we light in the name of love, as the creating force in all of our lives. Finally, we light the central Christmas candle, for the light that shines in bleak places with the full power of our hope. We know, says Reverend Bill Sinkford, how real the brokenness of the world is, but we will not give brokenness the last word. May this light bear our hopes as well as our faith in love, in goodness, in compassion, in justice. The light shines in the darkness, but the darkness shall not overpower it.
On Christmas Eve, we deal in myth and in metaphor, and a little magic too. Reverend Cecilia Kingman reminds us that Christmas carols have been written and rewritten for hundreds of years. I might know different words than someone else. So, I love the old words anyway, the ones that speak from far away. Although I don't always believe what they say, they surely are welcome here today. Please sing whatever lyrics you know, or those bringing comfort and joy below. The words might be different from the person near you, but the light that joins us shines clear through. Or in the hymnal, and that's okay, for the Christmas spirit is real today. Now, let's share a hymn written by a Unitarian minister, the Reverend Dr. John Hanley Morgan, civil rights and peace activist, as well as a minister and poet, wrote this one in the 20th century. Please join me in singing hymn number 224, Let Christmas Come.
Christmas come, its story told.
like to share a reflection this evening on the origins of Unitarian Universalist Christmas, and this is by Reverend Monica Jacobson-Tennyson. Christmas is a holiday that is well loved by many Unitarian Universalists, including folks whose theology is not Christian, including even UUs who are humanists and atheists. Perhaps this is because Christmas has become such an important holiday in secular ways. In the Christian tradition, the most theologically significant holiday is actually Easter, the day that says the most about an important belief held by Christians, which is that the teacher and prophet named Jesus died and then miraculously lived again. In contrast, maybe many UUs find Christmas more important than Easter because Christmas is the story of an everyday miracle, a baby born, a new life beginning, and people finding hope in the possibility of what this new person will teach and do, and finding that hope even in times of oppression and struggle. Our theological ancestors did not always love Christmas, though. Some of our ancestors are the Puritans, people who practiced a very strict kind of Christianity, who colonized what is now Massachusetts 400 years ago. And the Puritans did not approve of the common practice at the time of Christmas as a day of unruliness. It was a day when the working classes demanded food and drink from the aristocracy, and they engaged in drunken revelry. So the Puritans conveniently outlawed Christmas, so that would never happen, from 1659 to 1681, complete with a 5-shilling fine for anyone who was celebrating. But by the late 18th century, some less boisterous ways of celebrating Christmas were becoming more common in New England. Some American congregations began writing songs for Christmas services. Starting in 1789, the Universalists were organizing Christmas Day services and calling for its observance as a holiday, not as a day of unruliness, as it had been, but also not as a regular day for business and courts and government to be open as usual, as the Puritans had actually required it to be. The early Unitarians soon joined the Universalists in holding Christmas services, which opened the door to a new meaning of Christmas. The celebration grew to include new traditions influenced by immigrants from other European countries other than England, including a 19th century Unitarian minister named Charles Follen. He was from Germany, where people had a tradition of decorating trees in the winter. He came to the United States to teach German at Harvard University and studied there to become a Unitarian minister. Reverend Follen might have known the carol O Tannenbaum, also known as O Christmas Tree, about the faithfulness of the green found on fir trees in summer and in winter. The lyrics were written in 1824 in Germany, and while not a Christmas carol originally, when it came to the United States and was brought together with the custom of decorating trees around this time of year, it became a Christmas carol. So let's join together in singing O Christmas Tree. Please rise in body or spirit, and the words will be on the screen.
Rejoice in thine, O brother, to
In the mid-19th century, as Christmas trees and decorations were becoming widespread in the United States, so was the practice of singing Christmas carols. Some of the songs written and shared during that time have been passed down to us today. One of those carols, called "It Came Upon the Midnight Clear," was written, again, by a Unitarian minister, Reverend Edmund Hamilton Sears, who was serving part-time at a church in Massachusetts in 1849. At that time, most people didn't sing carols in church because they were considered to be more like pop music, secular, a little bit frivolous. Old hymns, like "Come All Ye Faithful," which we sang earlier, were for singing in church. Still, Reverend Edmund Sears, a pacifist and abolitionist, wrote words that spoke of the ancient story about the promise of peace on earth and goodwill to all. And he wrote about his longing to see that promise come true in his day. The United States at that time had just ended the Mexican-American War, and tensions were building toward the Civil War that was coming soon. Oh, leave her here. We don't know if this carol was sung for the first time in a Sunday school classroom or at Sears's home on Christmas Eve. We don't know what it sounded like, since the melody we know today was written the following year in 1850. But we know the feeling of the human longing for a world of peace and justice, the wish for angels to descend and to sing about what is possible, and for people to stop fighting and listen. Please rise now in body or spirit and join in singing hymn number 244, "It Came Upon the Midnight Clear."
Touch
It's not often we hear all 4 verses of that carol. And at this time, given the conflicts in Palestine and Israel, it's hard not to think also of those conflicts in our world. So I just want to acknowledge that that's lying heavy on our hearts at this season. I'd like to continue with the mid-19th century and the development of Unitarian Christmas. There was an author named Charles Dickens who was writing novels and stories at that time. Maybe you've heard of him. He liked Christmas, and he published stories about Christmas adventures in magazines. Now, Charles Dickens became a Unitarian in his 30s, and like many of the English Unitarians of the Victorian era, he was concerned with economic justice, and he believed that his country could do better. In 1843, he read a government report about children who were being exploited and injured in factory work. Determined to raise awareness about this horrifying problem, he set out to publish a pamphlet titled An Appeal to the People of England on Behalf of the Poor Man's Child. This might not have been a bestseller. So Dickens changed his mind and decided to find another way of working to transform society. In October of that same year, he began writing the story of Ebenezer Scrooge, a wealthy and heartless man who exploits his workers and his tenants. He wrote the whole thing at incredible speed, finishing in just 6 weeks, coming up with much of it in his head while walking around London 15 to 20 miles at night. And the story, of course, was called A Christmas Carol. Now, in A Christmas Carol, Scrooge is visited on Christmas Eve by the ghost of Jacob Marley, his business partner who died 7 years ago. And Marley declares, if a person's spirit goes not forth in life, it is condemned to do so after death. It is doomed to wander through the world, oh, woe is me, and witness what it cannot share, what it might have shared on earth and turned to happiness. Marley goes on to lament that when he was living, he never followed a star to a poor home like the 3 wise men followed the star to the inn where Mary and Joseph sheltered. He never looked for hope in a new baby or invested in helping his neighbors in need. Marley has now come to stop Scrooge from making the same mistakes while there's still time. And you may know the rest of the story. The 3 ghosts arrive to show Scrooge Christmas's past, present, and future. From the ghost of Christmas past, we learn that Scrooge was a lonely boy and that he grew to prize money over love, and that he lost his chance to become a husband and a father. The ghost of Christmas present shows Scrooge the home of his employee, Bob Cratchit, who doesn't have enough food, but he still has a home full of family and love. 2 of Cratchit's children, in fact, are working long hours to bring in a little money. And Tiny Tim is ill with some condition that could be treated if only the family had enough money. The ghost also takes Scrooge to the home of his nephew, the only adult child of his beloved sister, who died young. They go on to tour many places, seeing people enjoying themselves without much money, but with a great deal of gratitude and with generosity. And finally, the ghost of Christmas future shows Scrooge his own death and a grieving Cratchit family after Tiny Tim has died. The reminder that everyone will someday die reminds Scrooge and us of words spoken by his nephew earlier in the story, that Christmas is a time for everyone to think of those who are less fortunate than them as if they were really fellow passengers to the grave. Whew. Fellow passengers to the grave. Well, Scrooge awakes with a start to find it's Christmas morning, and he sets off immediately to make changes in his life, starting with showing generosity to his employee and giving away some of his wealth to help others. He connects with his nephew, he gives Bob Cratchit a raise, and he becomes an honorary father to Tiny Tim. He transforms himself. So what are we to make of this Christmas ghost story? Dickens is teaching us that so long as we are living, we have the choice to help or to hurt each other, and that we're all connected and interrelated. And while Dickens' story did not instantly create government programs to address child poverty, that took some time, it did inspire his readers to give generously, and if they were employers, to treat their own employees better, and to practice hospitality. As Michael Timko wrote in a 2005 UU World article, with Scrooge's transformative change of heart, Dickens illustrates that his readers, too, can be converted from a complacent worldview to one of love and hope and charity, and like Scrooge, can again become a part of the human community. For Dickens, that conversion of the heart to love and generosity, that was the true meaning of Christmas.
Tonight, in the spirit of love and generosity towards those among us who are experiencing financial difficulties, we will be receiving a special offering towards the Kitsap UU Fellowship's Ministerial Discretionary Fund. This fund serves as a source of one-time grant support to those in our community who have already sought out community resources and are in need of financial support beyond what is available from other organizations. This fall, we were able to support 4 people who were facing eviction with a month of emergency rent from the discretionary fund. As we typically invite an offering towards the ministerial discretionary fund only once or twice a year, please give generously. Information on how to make your contribution will be on the screen. Our offering will now be received as our choir sings Carol of the Bells.
Thank you, choir. And now we come at last to the Christmas story of the birth of a child in a manger. A child who reminds us of the tenderness of new life coming into the world in the dark of winter, in a time when we celebrate the tenderness of the human heart. Reverend Bruce Bodie reflects, there are some truths that are not literal truths, They are truths of the heart. And the divine Christ child is such a truth, a spiritual symbol, and not a historical figure. The Christ child has as little to do with the historical person of Jesus of Nazareth as Santa Claus has to do with the historical person of St. Nicholas. Truths of the heart and the imagination. These truths are so important that we try to make them historical and literal and concrete. We forget that symbols have to do with the deeper, essential truths of our lives, and that symbols pull together and embody the essence of things that are historical and universal throughout time. They pull together and they embody the essence of what we might become and of what we are striving for. And is this not what Christmas is about? Living into and living up to these symbols of the human heart? Over the past 20 centuries, Christ has become a symbol of the idealized human person, whatever the people of each era most needed for inspiration and guidance. The Christ has been called Rabbi, Son of Humanity, Universal Human, King of Kings, Prince of Peace, Teacher of Common Sense, Poet of the Spirit, Liberator, Light of the World, and many other names. These images are meant to renew us and reconnect us with our most vital selves. And in this time of year, in the season of the heart, we call on the image of Christ in the manger as the eternal child, the child who helps us reconnect with the most tender part of ourselves, the child in each of us, and with all children in the world. And so with that in mind, I'd like to share a reading of the Christmas story from the book of Luke. This is from the New Revised Standard Version, which is as close as we can get to a literal translation. In those days, a decree went out from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be registered. This was the first registration and was taken while Quirinius was governor of Syria. All went to their own towns to be registered. Joseph also went from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, to the city of King David called Bethlehem, because he was descended from the house and family of David. He went to be registered with Mary, to whom he was engaged and who was expecting a child. And while they were there, the time came for her to deliver the child. And she gave birth to her firstborn son and wrapped him in bands of cloth and laid him in a manger because there was no place in the guest room. Now in that same region, there were shepherds living in the fields, keeping watch over their flock by night. And then an angel of the Lord stood before them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. But the angel said to them, "Do not be afraid. For see, I'm bringing you good news of great joy for all the people. To you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, who is the Messiah, the Lord. This will be a sign for you. You will find a child wrapped in bands of cloth and lying in a manger." And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of heavenly hosts, praising God and saying, "Glory to God in the highest heaven, and on earth peace among those who he favors." He was that kind of God back then. When the angels had left them and gone into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, "Let us go now to Bethlehem and see this thing that has taken place, which the Lord made known to us." So they went with haste, and they found Mary and Joseph and the child lying in the manger. And when they saw this, they made known what had been told them about this child. And all who heard it were amazed at what the shepherds told them. And Mary treasured all these words, and she pondered them in her heart. And the shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all that they had seen and heard, just as it had been told them. And there is the Christmas story. And let's reflect a little bit on this story with a Christmas blessing by Reverend Mary Gear. The story tells of a woman heavy with child traveling with her partner to be counted in a census declared by a distant ruler, unaware of the lives disrupted or the life that is to come. May those in power open their minds and hearts to the impact of their actions on others, and especially those who are unseen and unprotected. I heard on NPR this morning that symbolically in Bethlehem, a child was laid in a manger wrapped in a shroud. And that got me. This story tells of too many people and not enough housing, so that the couple shelters in a stable with the animals. May we know that there can be enough housing for all, housing that offers comfort, warmth, and home. The story tells of a baby born on a cold night, the birthing cries unrecorded, perhaps unheard, a child swaddled and loved and warmed by his parents and the animals. May the cries of all mothers be heard, and may all children born into this world be welcomed, warmed, and loved. And the story tells of a star, bright in the night sky, heralding a message of new life, pointing the way to light toward hope. May we have glimpses of the stars on these long, dark nights, and may we see in the starlight a message of life, of light, and of hope. May this be so. Let us ponder these words in our heart as our choir sings O Holy Night, translated from a French carol by a Unitarian minister. Incidentally, this carol was banned from worship in France as the author was a socialist atheist who had it set to music by a Jewish composer. O Holy Night. We conclude our Christmas Eve service by quietly lighting individual candles that represent the light, the life, and the hope of our hearts. The ushers will bring the flame to those seated on the aisles, and please pass the flame to your neighbor when you receive it. When all rows have the flame, we will sing 3 verses of Silent Night, Holy Night, which will be on screen. And then once we've sung, the ushers will come forward to dismiss you 1 row at a time, and you may release your flame as you enter the foyer, where the candles will be collected. Blessings to each and every one of you this Christmas Eve.